We have fantastic videography happening. I would love for every online course at UNCW to have a high-quality video element in it.
Welcome to Here's the Deal, Teaching and Learning by Design, a podcast created by Jennifer Sias, a senior instructional designer in the Office of Distance Education and E-Learning at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. This podcast brings together stakeholders, primarily from UNCW, to discuss best practices in teaching, learning, instructional design and technology, as well as videography, and the roles they play in strengthening online, hybrid, and web-enhanced teaching and learning environments.
Welcome to Episode 4, Instructional Video. I'm Jennifer Sias, a senior instructional designer in Deal and the host of this podcast. As we discussed in the first two episodes, Deal provides instructional video services to faculty teaching online, hybrid, and web-enhanced courses. In this episode, we would like to take a deeper dive into the use of instructional video in courses at UNCW. At the risk of sounding like Captain Obvious, the use of instructional video in courses is most effective when it is intentional, thoughtfully designed, and strategically integrated into a course's instructional materials and tied clearly to activities, assignments, and assessments students are asked to complete. We call that alignment. And learning theory supports the use of video as a teaching tool. Take, for instance, the cognitive theory of multimedia learning, developed by Dr. Richard E. Mayer. This theory does support the use of video, as long as it's designed according to distinct evidence-based principles. Mayer's multimedia learning theory actually falls into 12 different areas, but I will focus on 3 that specifically support the use of video. 1. Dual channel processing. 2. Multimedia principle. And 3. Modality principle. The first, dual channel processing, holds that we learn more effectively when information is presented through both visual and auditory channels simultaneously. Video combines the spoken word with relevant visuals, which allows learners to build richer mental models. The second, the multimedia principle, asserts that we learn better from words and pictures than from words alone. Video, with the combination of graphics, text, and speech, is a powerful tool as long as the visuals are relevant, that is, they support the content rather than distract. The third, the modality principle, holds that if certain graphics are complex, then presenting the accompanying words in spoken narration rather than on-screen text can help reduce the cognitive load on our internal visual channel. So, effective videos are those that use clear, supportive visuals aligned with narration. They avoid extraneous imagery, music, or animations that could distract. When video is designed intentionally using Mayer's multimedia learning principles, it can be a powerful tool in online education. When it comes to designing effective video content, we can remember these 3 C's. Make sure your message is concise, coherent, and cognitively optimized. Mayer's isn't the only theory that supports the efficacy of video in teaching and learning. There is also Albert Bandura's social learning theory, which emphasizes learning through observation. Obviously, video allows learners to see models performing tasks or demonstrating skills, making it ideal for observational learning, imitation, and motivation. And then there's John Sweller's cognitive load theory, which focuses on managing working memory. So video can help reduce unnecessary load, and it can be segmented into digestible chunks. And then there's the good old constructivist theory, which underscores that we build knowledge from experience. So video, especially when it's interactive, can activate reflection and inquiry. Consider videos that involve real-world scenarios and those that integrate activities that foster deeper understanding. And finally, there is dual coding theory by Alan Pavio, who posits that information presented both verbally and visually can improve retention. With sound learning theory supporting the effectiveness of video in teaching and learning, let's turn our attention to the voice we heard at the top of this episode, that of Dr. Jeremy Dickerson, who is Deal's Assistant Provost and Professor of Instructional Technology. Jeremy promotes our team's instructional video services, and Deal has an impressive track record of helping faculty record, edit, and present video elements in their courses. Now, let's hear from some of the faculty who have worked with our team. I asked them how they view the role of video in their online, hybrid, and web-enhanced courses. First, we have Dr. Jamie Chulak, Clinical Associate Professor in the School of Health and Applied Human Sciences. Dr. Chulak discusses the general role of video and references a special video project we will hear more about later in this episode.
Video provides students an opportunity to, contextualize some of the concepts that we're trying to deliver, whether it's because they have the opportunity to pause and rewind, or to animate the types of concepts that might be microscopic in nature or granular in nature, or the opportunity to take the different perspectives, as we did in using ThingLink, to focus on maybe the patient is experiencing this lived experience differently, and drawing attention to that. And what was most fascinating is even within the video, as we reviewed our final production, areas that we were able to utilize within the video to reinforce concepts learned, they were there in a video format. Gaps that existed, we were able to utilize and find new learning outcomes, right? For example, in the video, one of the things I noticed is while shooting the video, as the actor playing the physician, I was crossing my arms and talking to the patient. And so it unlocked an opportunity for us to leverage that moment to describe how uncomfortable the doctor may feel and how that might be perceived by the patient. And so we were able to take the video and observe it as almost like, we're proofing the product that we're producing and considering different unintended learning opportunities, which was fun too.
Next, we hear from Claire Kiley, a theater instructor.
I teach theater and I teach dance appreciation, both with the same thing. What we want them to be able to do, students to be able to do, is see it live, because the ephemeral nature of it is intrinsic to it. However, an online class requires that we watch videos of plays, for instance. And so I look for productions that are live on tape, so that they are seeing a live production, but they're seeing a record of it, but it was not edited. They didn't stop and start. Actors make a mistake on their lines, it's in there. And then with the video and the online classes, I think because it's almost like a generational thing, that there is more ease with, I think, retaining things, looking at videos, more comfort with looking at a video representation of something rather than just reading it or looking at it in another way. And it can augment lectures, it can augment the text in a great way. I like that it makes it easier to put yourself in it. So when you're teaching an online class, it's not this, I'm this far off person. I could be in Montana or something, and teaching this class. Instead, no, I'm right here with you. And it reinforces that. I'm here, I'm real, I'm a real person. I didn't buy a packaged online class and I'm just putting it online. I really did do this and put this together. And I think it helps that way. But we're teaching younger people who are so much more familiar with video and film and digital. And it's good to use it in a productive way.
Next, Dr. April Braswell, Associate Professor in the School of Nursing, on how she sees the role of video in the classroom.
I use video in my courses for three main reasons. Okay. First, Many students, in fact, the majority of students, as we know, are audiovisual learners. Not everyone learns well from reading a textbook or reading a 30-page article or reviewing a 60, online paragraph pages. Video is just one way to target that audiovisual learning for my students. Second, I use video to increase immersion. I want students to feel like they're right there with me. I want them to feel like they are actually there in that clinic. I want them to feel they're sitting right in front of me and engaging and interacting. The way in which I create videos focuses very much on support, okay? And for a lack of a better word, realness. I don't want learners to feel as though I'm reading a list. And I see that a lot sometimes, especially when I started out as a new educator. I was just kind of spouting out words and listing things. Instead, now I really focus on wanting them to feel like we're having a discussion. I want them to feel like they're part of that discussion. And I create videos in a way that students will be talking out loud while they're listening to me. I know that they will say things to themselves. I'll create pauses. I'll integrate humor. I'll use that support in my videos, and I want them to feel like they're right with me. And then the last one, finally, I use video as a resource to help decrease social isolation, okay? The literature on graduate students in nursing really shows a high risk of stress and social isolation for online education. Creating brief enough video that occurs often in a course, for me, can serve as one way to help students feel that they're with someone, that they're not isolated, they're not alone, and that they have that support.
Finally, Dr. Naveen Ritchie, Associate Dean and Professor in the Cameron School of Business, on how she sees the role of video in the online classroom.
Some of the teaching is information that is being relayed from the professor to the student. Other learning happens when the students learn on their own by researching, by doing, by practicing. And then other learning happens when they're interacting with other people, their classmates, with their professor, with the grad assistant in discussion boards or group projects. There are very valuable learning experiences in all of those. When it comes to relaying information from the professor to the student, one of those three ways, that to me is done best through video, because then it employs not just their ears, but their eyes and their hands when they have to write down the notes at the same time.
So a true multimedia engagement.
As you can see, or hear, these professors are employing many of the theories I mentioned. So, how did they come to work with distance education and e-learning? Well, some faculty began working with Deal Video team members during COVID, like Claire Kiley. Let's hear again from this enterprising theater professor.
It was through a class I took in how to be a better online teacher. Simplify the title there, but it's there's a series of just wonderful classes when the pandemic hit, and people had to do sort of instant crash courses in how to teach online. I'd never taught online before, and they were just wonderful classes. And we were all I shouldn't say we were all, but many of us were making our own sort of homegrown videos at home, and I myself would do 20 and 30 takes, just like, halfway through it, I forgot something, or I did something wrong, or whatever, and I would have to redo them. And it was very frustrating. And I was talking about in the classes ways to make it better. And it was brought to my attention, well, the university has a studio, and we have wonderful professional people who can help you do these videos. And I watched some of them, and I thought, it looks too much like, ABC News. I'll never be able to do it that well. Never be able to do that. But I sent an email to Jack, and he always responded so quickly. Every time I sent him an email, he was very, very quick to respond, and talked about, coming in and doing that. I gave him, I think at that time I gave him access to the videos I was doing, and he was so nice. He was very complimentary. He said, well, yours that you're doing at home look pretty good. That's okay, but we can make them look a little more, polished. And so then I came in and I did, I think, 2 or 3 of the lectures at a time. And he made it so easy to do. He's so professional. But set it up so that he would do edits. He would do the transitions from me to the PowerPoint or to any images that I had in there. And then closed captioning was done, transcripts were done. all of those things were done for me, and then it was just ready. It seemed so quickly it was ready to go. And it very much put me at ease. Same thing, as I can stop and start. And we had to do it a couple times, like, oh, well, okay, time out. Gotta go back and start this again. And it was all just a very easy process because of the professionalism of the staff. So I recommend it so much to anybody if they have to do online lectures to do that. Just keep them generic, so they might last more than one semester.
Make them a little evergreen.
Yes, exactly.
Professor Kiley mentioned Jack Horn, a longtime videographer at Deal. You will hear others mention Jack and his exceptional abilities. Chris C. and Andre Burrows also serve as videographers and have been assisting faculty with their video projects. Faculty in the Cameron School of Business also are avid users of Deal's video services. The way Associate Dean Naveen Ritchie uses video is emblematic of this kind of collaboration Deal has with Cameron faculty. Let's hear from Dr. Naveen Ritchie on the types of videos she has recorded in partnership with Deal.
Well, I have recorded different types of videos. One is the traditional video where I had PowerPoint slides, but I was in the studio and the videographer blended images of me speaking with the slides that I had available. That's one type, kind of traditional. Another is where I had written maybe some instructions for students, and I had used another software like Microsoft OneNote or something with a stylus. And so the videographer took that and embedded it into another video that had an intake and an outtake and a little bit more information to make it more professional for the students. And then my favorite is when I get to use the lightboard because I teach finance. There's a lot of numbers. And so using the lightboard in the studio is one of my favorite types of videos to make and one of the ones that the students like the most.
Let's hear a bit more from Naveen on what she wants her videos to convey and the kind of feedback she has received from students.
I want them to have the sense that they are in the classroom with me and that they are learning directly from me. So to the extent that I can make it feel as personal as possible and not just me reciting a bunch of information, I hope to do that in the videos that they're watching. That would encourage them to watch rather than me make them watch them. Usually the feedback I get is when I use the lightboard. I don't get a lot of feedback on other kinds of videos. So I'm assuming that things are fine and everybody is watching and learning and all that. I do know that students watch them because they bring questions, especially when we have a hybrid class where I've asked them to watch lectures in advance and then come to class prepared. I will have them ask me questions about things I've said on the video. So I know full well they're watching those. But when I get the most spontaneous, positive feedback, it's usually because they enjoyed watching the lightboard video that I've made.
Claire and Naveen are great examples of faculty who have reached out to Deal for specific video projects. Other faculty have worked with us on a series of videos. For instance, Dr. April Braswell connected with Deal through a video innovation project. Dr. Braswell developed a virtual pediatric comfort care clinic and worked with our team to design and film segments to create an environment where students can be immersed in real-life scenarios. I should note that their work was recognized in the form of a Silver Telly Award for the video series. Telly Awards, by the way, are an annual program recognizing excellence in video and television production across platforms, including television, online video, and social media. Let's hear from April on her experience filming these videos.
This would not have been possible, obviously, without the amazing people at Deal, the experts that I have worked with. So when I work with the video producers and the instructional designers and the instructional technologists to make these videos, they are the first people and the first thing I think about because I would never be able to have accomplished this without them. When I first started doing these videos, I met with the video producer for several hours in a day. There was just so much effort and so much time put in. And I remember thinking to myself, I messed up here and this isn't going to look good because I looked over here. And when I got the final edited versions back, I was like, these people are talented. They added music, they added little things in the beginning that made it look like a news break. They made it kind of almost look like a TV series, and they added images, and they took pictures of me and my online and things that I've done in the past and incorporated it, in addition to, looking up words themselves to figure out what they meant, because I never told them what some of these things were. And when they would put text and, video on the screen and incorporate it with what I'd done, I knew how hard they were working to create such a great immersive experience for my student. So my experience filming these videos for the clinic was nothing short of amazing, but also I always think about the hard work that Deal puts in.
Dr. Jamie Chulak also worked with Deal on a video innovation project. Jack Horn served as the videographer, and Brittany Denning served as the senior instructional designer on the project. I asked Jamie to talk about the project, how students received it, and what he might do differently.
I had the opportunity to work with Deal in the past, and I think because of prior projects, the opportunity came to me through Brittany and Jack, who's the videographer, and Brittany, the instructional designer, who are describing the video innovation project and how it may align with some of my interests in providing an opportunity for instruction to decrease or break down the barriers that might exist within the curriculum. So one of the things that they talked about was not just the intent of the project, but some of the tools that might be utilized. ThingLink was one of them, which was rather interesting because it helped me ideate and think about the possibilities. And working with Deal and with a videographer, working collaboratively to identify, as a faculty member, what are the learning outcomes that I want to achieve for students, and what capacity do we have from a technical perspective that instructional designers might help me, facilitate and deliver with the tools that we have here at our disposal.
Tell me about the finished product and how students reacted, or any kind of feedback you received about the video.
So what's interesting is the video project that we produced, it has evolved, and we've adopted it into our quality enhancement plan for accreditation. So it's part of an interdisciplinary project now. So we have students from respiratory therapy, psychology, gerontology, participating in observing and looking at the final finished product from the perspective of a case study where they are incorporating their disciplinary perspectives on what they see. And they're sharing that information with one another. And so our students in this interdisciplinary team are producing added content and added perspectives to continue to build upon that final finished product. But I think it's interesting to hear students who see me in the classroom now have the opportunity to see me in this video project in a setting that is a case study delivered with a degree of acting involved and perspectives that ThingLink offered that helped me illustrate some of the perspectives needed for healthcare providers. We focused on the patient perspective, the physician's perspective, the respiratory therapist perspective, and we were able to depict it within the tools, which unlocked some ideas and some thoughts of the concepts we're trying to deliver for our students.
That's really powerful. Tell me about the outcome versus the investment of your time, your energy, and so on. I could simplistically ask, was it worth it? But, what really was involved, the nuts and bolts?
What I find most exciting is that in sharing the project with other disciplines, we've been able to scaffold up how we think about interdisciplinary work. And in our next iteration next year, we're going to invite other disciplines. So within this case study, within this video, I'd like to have nursing faculty participate in this interdisciplinary work based on this one patient experience that we utilize within the video produced. Business, communications, and other disciplines that may have a stake in what the lived experience of patients may have that aren't confined to just healthcare disciplines.
What would you do differently now that you have a little hindsight or the benefit of?
You know, I think early on I would have tried to attract more participants into the production, maybe the post-production, but the process to produce videos and incorporate videos. For me, initially, there was an interest in making sure I understood the process. And while there is time and investment spent, it is valuable. And so I wanted to make sure that within the pre-production work, I would have a better understanding as to what I would be asking of others who might join in the work. And that's important because, not to use a business term, buy-in, but I like to incorporate and collaborate with anyone willing. And now I have a clearer picture as to what it is the process can do from as a faculty member in unlocking some of the learning out in ways that are just unique and creative. We've incorporated some of the process of pre-production with our students in the interdisciplinary space. And while imperfect, it's the exercise of failing forward and prototyping new solutions for what we're trying to build, and with the capacities that are available within the video production that's available. It's pretty neat.
Let's turn our sights to fun and innovative technology that we can integrate into video. A few professors have mentioned the video lightboard. I have to admit, when I saw how Dr. April Braswell incorporated it, I was blown away. It reminded me of the film about John Nash called A Beautiful Mind, because by the time she was finished, April's board was filled with notes and diagrams and drawings, and watching her use it was like watching a conductor conduct a symphony or sportscasters sketching out expert plays.
You know, I came to, I believe it was one of the video producers, it might have been Jack Horn and also Brittany Denning, and I said, here's what I want to do. I want not to have a video where I'm just lecturing students. You know, I want them to be able to see more. I want it to be more interactive. And I'm a mover, I'm a talker, and I'm a writer. That's how I teach. So what can I do? And they suggested the lightboard to me. I went and I took a look at it, and I looked at some videos of other faculty had used it. I said, this is it. This is exactly what I want. In addition to, you know, I could use colors. I'm a very colorful writer. You know, I like to use color when I'm teaching as well. So it was a way for me to face the students while writing something that they would be learning. And I did it in an approach that students are familiar with that are learning to be nurse practitioners, because I went from top to bottom in a differential diagnosis approach. What that means is, here's all the information you have about these patients. We're gonna write this stuff that we know at the top. Then we're gonna think about some diagnoses that could be going on, all of them. Okay, what are the really bad ones? What are the possible ones that maybe not? And then what are the ones in the middle that we think it could be? And then I worked through that process of making the decision with them and talking to them at the end about what treatment would be. I also drew pictures. So, you know, if we have things that certain types of rashes or certain types of orthopedic presentations in patients, I drew pictures on the board to help them see what does a rash look like when it has central clearing. You know, what does a baby or a child look like with genovarum and that bow-legged appearance? You know, I drew that for them on the board and used that in a way that I think would really enhance the impact of their learning.
April Braswell, mover, talker, and writer. Well, let's hear from Naveen Ritchie on her use of the video lightboard.
Well, what I found is when you're teaching something that requires math of any kind, so where you would have written across a board, there would have been two ways to do that. One would be to use PowerPoint, and you have the bits of the formula appear kind of sequentially. Here's this, then we plug in numbers, then here's what it looks like. And no matter how slow I try to go with slides, it's not quite slow enough. Whereas if I were to be in front of a whiteboard in a classroom and I write the formula across the board and then I start using numbers with my hand, that slows it down enough that students are now following along much better than when they have to see line by line appear at once. The lightboard allows me to replicate that experience in a video form that PowerPoint could never do.
In my chats with all 4 faculty members, I asked them about future video projects they might like to try. First up, April Braswell from the School of Nursing.
An idea that I have for a 2-minute consult. Really brief videos that I show every single week in the course announcements, focused on the content for that week. I want it to be hard-hitting but brief because students at the doctoral level often are really busy. Okay, so I want it to be high impactful learning in a 2-minute video that is just focused so much on an audio visual, but brings in music, brings in images, brings in me. I can even see myself like walking around in these videos, pointing to certain things on the screen, other images, and the songs and the music would align with what the concepts are. So I've seen that kind of used via text, like a 90-second consult, someone just reads something, but I think it would be really impactful if I created a 2-minute video consult for diagnoses in children that is really just digital, and audio, visual, and multimedia.
I love it.
Do you love
And
it? Okay.
I love it. And, like you said, on a regular basis, it's not overwhelming. It's
right.
It's consumable in those little chunks on a predictable basis.
Next idea, Claire Kiley from theater.
I would like to look at ways that students can utilize the video, the back and forth of video more, that they're more comfortable with making videos. I guess I'm surprised some don't have a higher level of comfort with it. I would think that they would, but the idea that, I'm not sure how to do this and how do I do the video, and they're rushed to try to get it in by the deadline. But I think that is something I'd like to be able to do more of. They can give me a video response. They can do not just voice, but see them in it. And maybe that's something Zoom can do. I don't know, but I would like to look at more creative ways to do that, to have them respond in kind. If I'm doing a quick video intro to the unit, they can respond that way quickly, so it's much easier for them to respond via video. Utilize that more. Also, to incorporate more videos into the lectures. I have to re-record some of my lectures soon, I know, incorporating some of the video selections that I like to use, and more graphics, things like that in there.
Now, Naveen Ritchie from the College of Business.
One thing I feel like I haven't really mastered is making the videos perhaps more interactive. So I had tried, and I think I need some work in this, where if I was physically in a classroom and I was teaching, I was lecturing, I would never just speak the whole time. I would have stopped, I would have asked questions, I would have directed students to answer questions from other students. When I do that in the video format, it's a little bit more fragmented because I have to do the video, then I stop. I usually stop and ask them to do something. Go find this information, tell me about this other source of data, tell me what other factor, things like that. Then I carry on with the next segment, and then I stop, and then I ask them to do something again. Upload this, take a screenshot of that. So it becomes more fragmented. I would love a way to be able to make that process more smooth, but I haven't learned how to do that yet. That would be something for the future.
And finally, Jamie Chulak on future video projects he might like to try.
One project I'd love to be able to do is to create, micro-learning opportunities that focus on core concepts. And, think about like a concept corner where there's maybe some salient point that I'd like to be able to depict in a video that helps through the use of animation, audio, that tries to concretize an idea that students can take away with. And through this concept, if sprinkled throughout a course or throughout a curriculum, this concept corner can become part of the curriculum in its own way. So there are clearly opportunities to identify those things that students are persistently struggling with, right? If it's the relevance of a mathematical equation and its application to perfusion, there are ways to, using video, maybe depict that in salient ways that are easy for students to digest, maybe repeat, and then eventually communicate over time. So that would be neat. Other projects include utilizing video to go out into the community, and that's a capacity. It creates a challenge when it comes to capacity, where if we were to partner with physicians and respiratory therapists and nurses in the community and record a surgical procedure, which I've done in the past, and then utilize that recording to build in some of the experiences that reinforce lecture, right? Or reinforce the concepts in lab, because it's hard to simulate everything. But it would be neat to be able to showcase what that interprofessional teamwork looks like in a real setting, adding gravity to the learning objectives, adding some realism and fidelity that are easier for students because they're attractive.
Finally, I asked each faculty member to offer some words of advice and tips in creating videos for their classes. First up, Jamie Chulak.
I would start with making sure you can identify what the learning objectives or outcomes are and where those gaps might be within any module or course. I think the use of video to illustrate some of the concepts may be received by the student in ways that you will appreciate after the fact. And it's fun to learn a new skill, and it requires a degree of vulnerability to go through the production of video. But I would advise, faculty to play in this realm where you can create product that may be imperfect in your first attempt, but in the work, pre and post-production work between, the instructional designers, the videographers, and folks who have experience in supporting the faculty through this journey, it makes the work seamless, right? I think the partnership and collaboration is essential. And everyone grows from this, especially the students, but certainly for individuals who've never participated in pre or post-production of video. It's a fun new skill to explore, and I think that's, at the end of the day, I think it resonates with students who really get a sense that, man, they're doing their darndest to help me understand this content.
Claire Kiley.
I would do it. I mean, I think that there's resources here at the university that are not being taken advantage of. And if you're not sure, well, what can it do? I teach a history class. What can it do for me? It's just a straightforward lecture. Well, there's all kinds of exciting things. And again, we're teaching a generation of people who are very used to this, very comfortable with this. It's okay to put something in a video format. We see this in set design. The people are using more and more projections and videos. It's becoming more of a multimedia sort of thing, and students are used to that. It's just like, well, it's going to confuse them. No, and it makes them that much more it makes it that much more enriching. But I think to talk to people like yourself and to Jack and to people who can translate what you want into an environment, into a video environment, into the digital environment, into making your online classes more dynamic. Because I think we're going to see more and more of them. And instead of becoming an easier way or just a less challenging way for students to learn, it can be just as challenging as face-to-face. But I can't stress enough utilize. When I tell colleagues about how I did these lectures and how wonderful it was, and they're like, oh, I got to call them and find out, because it's take advantage of the resources we have here. It's like teaching here and never going to the library. Some people's like, where is the library? You've never done the library. It's wonderful. Just go and just stand there. It's just great. And it's a place, it's a great resource with all these things, and I think people are taking advantage of it as much as they could.
And here are some advice and tips from Naveen Ritchie.
Hold the students accountable in some manner. So whether that is a quiz question or something that they have to do at the end of a video, what I typically do, especially if it's a hybrid course, I ask them to read whatever the assignment is before we meet. I ask them to watch my video lectures before we meet, and there will be a more simple quiz on the lecture material that's due the minute that our class meeting starts. So if class starts at 9 a.m., it is now, that assignment is due. Anything later than 9 a.m., it's now late. And then in the class then is where more discussion can take place. But this kind of forces them to do the pre-work before they arrive, and they don't just wait for me to tell them what I've already told them in a video. One of the things that has really helped has been, and I didn't do this at first, but was to write out actually everything that I would say. I thought that would feel too much like I'm reading when I stand in front of a camera. So I didn't want to do that. And instead, I would have just kind of bullet points of what I would say. Well, those videos, I think, sounded like I'm thinking, I'm doing this by the seat of my pants. And instead, when I actually wrote out everything I was going to say and it was coming through the teleprompter, I feel like those videos are much more natural sounding. It's completely counterintuitive to me. So having a transcript in advance and sending that to the videographer and having it uploaded directly for me along with my slides just made the video seem a lot more natural than what I thought was natural. So when I'm in the classroom, I would never read my script. I would always just have points and then I would speak. But in video, it's the opposite. Having the transcript has been a lot more helpful than having just bullet points of what I think I'm going to fill in the blanks after the fact. I don't understand it, can't explain it, but that seems to work.
Some final advice from April Braswell.
So there's a few things that I would say. The first thing is I would say get to know what is actually available to you. When I first started out as a faculty member, I felt like I was doing a lot of things that I didn't know all of the expertise that was right next to me. I didn't know what an instructional designer was. Okay, I hate to out myself, but I didn't know the kind of expertise that you all have that you could offer me in building my vision. And I will never forget when Brittany Dunning came to me and she was like, you tell me what you want, what is your vision, and I will help you create it. And I didn't realize it was just that simple, that I was like, just like I gave you that example with the 90 or 2-minute consult, that they can make things like that happen when I create them a vision and using a vision board and a concept map. So first that, I would say get to know what's available to you, because there is so much that you can do that you're probably not doing just because you don't know. And then the next thing I would tell you is one of the things that sometimes prevents us from doing things is nervousness or anxiety or stress about being on video or on audio or on camera. And I had that in the beginning, but when I started thinking about my students as real people and me as a real person who can make some silly mistakes and be, just a person on these videos, I started having a lot more ease and giving myself grace as an educator, and even adding humor when I made mistakes. And it made those videos so much more creative and brought them to life. And that anxiety now has just decreased. It's just not there anymore, because I know my students are just there to learn, and they understand that I'm a real person, and that, these videos don't have to be so robotic and replayed and rehearsed. They can just be us as people who are experts and trying to educate them.
That brings us to the close of episode 4, Instructional Video. Thank you for joining me as we explored why instructional video works so effectively when it's intentional, aligned, and grounded in learning theory. I want to extend a special thank you to the faculty whose voices enriched our conversation today. First, Dr. Jamie Chulak, Clinical Associate Professor in the School of Health and Applied Human Services, and one of Deal's pioneering video innovation participants. His early adoption of video integration exemplifies how intentional design can transform learning. And then Dr. April Braswell, Associate Professor in the School of Nursing, whose creative Pediatric Comfy Care Clinic series not only supported student learning, it earned her and Deal a prestigious Telly Award. We also heard from Dr. Naveen Ritchie, Associate Dean and Professor from the Cameron School of Business, whose insights remind us that video can enhance learning across disciplines. And thank you to Claire Kiley, an engaging theater professor whose perspective on video's potential for student engagement and reflection truly resonated. To our listeners, whether you're faculty considering video integration or an instructional designer plotting your next project, remember the power of alignment. Ground your visuals and narration in theory. Keep it clear, coherent, and cognitively friendly. When designed thoughtfully, instructional video doesn't just convey content, it models practice, invites reflection, and creates connection. Here's the deal. Teaching and Learning by Design at UNCW and Beyond is hosted by Jennifer Sias, a senior instructional designer in distance education and e-learning. Our intention is to produce one episode monthly, focusing on, as the title implies, teaching, learning, instructional design and technology, and videography at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Stay tuned for future episodes on topics like the role of gamification in higher education, best practices in blended learning, designing effective online courses, leveraging instructional technology for engaged learning, building interactive and accessible learning materials, and more. And don't forget some sage advice from theater professor Claire Kiley.
We have to rise to meet the challenges, whether it's AI, issues that we have, concerns about AI. Don't be concerned about AI. Let's think positive about AI, all the good things it can do. And there are some bad that go with it, but we have to come up with more challenging assignments. And that's another thing I've gotten from distance learning, from the classes I've taken on online learning. It just coming up with better, more creative assignments. And they end up challenging you and your students even more.
Well, Claire, I hope you and everyone else can join us next time for episode 5, because it focuses on artificial intelligence and its impact in online, hybrid, and web-enhanced learning, and in higher education overall. Many thanks to UNCW libraries, particularly the Maker Studio personnel, including Jason Fleming, Cole Morgan, and Alyssa Wharton, for their help as I use their state-of-the-art podcast studio, which, by the way, is available to everyone at UNCW by making an appointment via Maker Studio online. Thanks also to OUR staff members, including Andrea Weaver, Jesse Bradley, Stacy Heideck, and Molly McEwen, for lending me an ear and really helpful advice. For more information and to get in touch, please visit our website, tinyurl.com/UNCW deal. That's tinyurl.com
UNCWDEEL.
Until next time, this has been Here's the Deal by Jennifer Sias.